Ladies and gentlemen, this is the moment that Breezy has been waiting for. Breezy, are you ready?
Oh yeah, always ready.
Jason, go ahead and drop that beat. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been a long time, but we're back. Fight fans worldwide, whoever you are and wherever you are, thanks for watching. My name is HB, alongside my brother in boxing, Breezy, and this is the hard-hitting truth. This is a podcast by boxers to give you an unfiltered, unbiased look at the sweet science that we love so much. Joining us on the show is a very special guest, Jason from Podcaster Die Trying. We're also joined by Adonis, a young sports broadcaster in the making. And last but not least, we're joined by Alex Zuniga, an amateur boxer hailing from San Antonio, Texas. On this episode, we're going to go ahead and break down the fight between Terence Bud Crawford and Showtime Shawn Porter. But before we go any further, if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to us on YouTube. You can also follow us on Facebook and Instagram at thht.boxing. Also, while you're listening, go ahead and give us a thumbs up, leave some feedback for us in the comments. Most importantly, go ahead and share this content and tell your friends to tell their friends about the hard-hitting truth. Breezy, I already know you're ready, so go ahead and ring that opening bell, my brother.
Ooh, I've been waiting to talk about this one. Ding, ding.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back. We've had a few technical difficulties to get over. Also had a video that got flagged, but we're here. And as they say, better late than never. I'm going to talk about the fight that went down November 20th between Terence Bud Crawford and Showtime Shawn Porter. And if you haven't heard me say it before, I'm going to say it again. And even if you have heard me say it before, I'm still going to say it again. My brother Breezy is the self-proclaimed president of the Bud Crawford fan club. So this night is definitely for him. Breezy, my brother, go ahead and break this fight down for us. Tell us what went right for Bud and what went wrong for Showtime Shawn Porter.
Okay. Well, I want to start with what went right for Porter because he did a lot of things right. I want to give him his credit.
That's true.
You know, he fought very, very well. And in my opinion, he looked as good as he's ever looked, even, better than when he faced Brooke or even Spence. But he did, before the fight, I said he needed to do a few things if you want to have a chance to win. He needs to be Shawn Porter, but he needs to be a Shawn Porter that doesn't smother his own punches, that uses the jab, uses his strength, his body strength, not just punching power, but, his wrestling strength. He did that. He did all of that. And but unfortunately, what went wrong for him, he was in the ring with somebody with just as big a dog as he had and all the IQ, all the boxing IQ in the world that you can ask for. And so Bud did his thing. His boxing superpower was on display. He made all the adjustments. He weathered the storm. Like I said, Shawn Porter, he had great success. He got off to a great start, put pressure on Bud, made him uncomfortable in spots. But like I said, Bud kept his composure, made the adjustment, murdered the body. He absolutely murdered the body, and then finished him off when the time was right. So
it was a great fight. It was a great fight. Let me go ahead and ask Adonis. Adonis, what did you think of the fight?
Man, it was an amazing fight. Shawn Porter, you really couldn't ask for a better game plan going into that fight. I know his dad at the end, when we'll get to that, had said he didn't like the way he trained. But honestly, it looked like he was putting together a game plan that was going to maybe win him the fight. That's just what it looks like, I think, when you get a great fighter against an all-time great fighter. He can do everything right, but Bud Crawford, at the end of the day, man, he's just too damn good. Too good. You saw it in the fight. Bud got that uppercut read from the fourth round, and it was just waiting for it to land the entire time. And eventually, he got back in his corner. His corner said, "Hey, man, you might be down," and he went out there and got it done. See, that's a big difference between guys like, say, like Little Charlo, these counterpunchers that get down on rounds, sometimes they don't find that shot and they end up losing decisions. Bud Crawford's not that guy. He heard he might be down, and he went out and he got the fight. The counter punching was fantastic. His timing was spectacular. Credit to Shawn Porter, man. He's a dog. He went out there, put the points on round after round after round. Heck, some people even had him up. But Bud Crawford is just that good.
Yeah, very much so. Alex, welcome to the show. What did you think? What did you think of the fight between Crawford and Porter?
I thought it was a great fight. I had the first half of the fight. They were sharing rounds. I know you said you had it 3 for Porter only. I had it a little bit more than that. I feel like they were sharing rounds, but Crawford just kept his composure and just waited for that moment that Shawn started fading, because his game plan was working, but I feel like those body shots started slowing him down. And eventually, like, Adonis said, that uppercut was just waiting to land and finally clipped him. And then he got back up. He wanted to go at, which I thought was kind of dumb to just go at Crawford after you've been down. But it just showed what type of fighter Shawn is. He wanted to get him right back. And he got put down again. And after that, I mean, the dad stopped the fight. But it was a great fight. It was very competitive. And it just showed that Crawford's just on another level. Other guys struggle with Porter, and they look very messy. But the fight never looked messy at all. I mean, he always looked in control, even when he was losing rounds. So it just shows how great of a fighter he is.
Yeah, one of the things that I noticed about the fight, and you made mention, Alex, that I had the fight kind of, I had Porter in the first 3 rounds, and then I had Crawford from there on out on my unofficial scorecard. I also had the 3rd round and the 5th round as kind of swing rounds on my unofficial scorecard. The 3rd round I gave the Porter, 5th round I gave the Crawford. It was a very close and competitive fight. All the rounds were pretty close and competitive. But one of the things that I noticed about Crawford that made a big difference in the fight was that he was really doing a good job with Porter in the clinch and being able to hold him. And it really, really showed how much stronger he is in this division now, because there's been talk out there before that, because he came up from a lower division, is he strong enough in this division? And I think he definitely proved that against Porter, because just like you said, Alex, other people have tried. Other people have fought Porter and they've looked a little sloppy, but Crawford was able to make it look a lot cleaner by handling him in the clinch. Jason, what did you think of the fight?
I mean, just basically your run-of-the-mill championship fight. I mean, it gave you everything that you wanted out of a fight. 2 very skilled fighters. I thought Shawn Porter looked super sharp coming out. I thought that he gave Crawford a go. And I think that ultimately, to echo what Adonis said, the counterpunching was just on full display. I haven't seen counterpunching like that in a long time. Like, Crawford's ability to counter and just like program in what you're doing and react to that is just elite. He is shown time after time, even though many of us have doubted him time after time, including myself. And I still have him as an underdog to
me,
which I'm not gonna get into it with Breezy just yet. We got plenty of time for that, but overall, this was awesome. And just to recap, in the 10th, he put him out in the 10th. So when he was sitting on the stool at the end of the 9th, and he was asking, "Am I down? Am I down? I'm down." He was kind of checking. Just the way his antennas went up, and you could see his whole body language and everything change. And for him to be basically executing at a championship level, to go up another notch, show me something that, it was just impressive. It was like one of the more impressive things I've seen this year. You know what I mean? Like, he was already operating in a championship, form, and when he felt as if he was down, you could just see the switch flip, and man, came the pressure, and I just love the fight. But yeah, kudos to Shawn Porter. I think he did a wonderful job at that point when Crawford flipped the switch. I had him maybe up around, if not tied. So I did have him like right there. I had them neck and neck in the fight at that point. But yeah, man, Crawford just made it where it was no doubts. We don't need a decision or have to go back and forth with punch counts or who won what round. And we don't have to do that no more because Crawford decided to turn it up a notch. And man, money well spent. Good job.
Absolutely. To piggyback onto what you're saying, the fight was close. Two of the judges had a 1 point advantage for Terence Crawford, and the other judge, the third judge, had a 2 point advantage for Crawford after 9 rounds. So it was a very close and competitive fight. For example, on my card, my unofficial card, I would have had a 2 point advantage for Crawford. He got that intel, or I guess it wasn't really intel because it didn't turn out to be true. He heard that he was somebody told him that he was down on the cards, and like you said, those antennas went up. He said, "Oh, really? I'm down." And he went out in the 10th round, and within 30 seconds, Shawn Porter was on the campus. After a performance like that, it really appears as though not only is Terence Crawford elite and an elite welterweight, he's an elite boxer, and you gotta definitely start mentioning him in your pound for pound list if you haven't been doing it already. Him going out there and finishing Shawn Porter in the 10th round that he did also makes him one of the best finishers in boxing, similar to the way Canelo finishes people. It was an amazing performance. So that kind of moves us to the next question, which is, after this performance, is Terence Crawford the number 1 welterweight in the division? And again, because my man Breezy is the unofficial, self-proclaimed president of the Bud Crawford fan club, I'm going to go ahead and turn it directly over to El Presidente. Mr. President, tell us what you think. Is Bud the number 1 welterweight right now?
Let me think about that. Well, I will say absolutely. I was going to kind of steal a word from Floyd, so I'm gonna just cut it to absolutely. I think he is, and like I said, credit to Shawn Crawford. He was good enough to make more people see that. If he had just some regular guy, or if it wasn't somebody on Shawn Porter's level, there would probably still be more people saying he's not the guy, or this person or that person could beat him. And there still might be those guys, but there's less of them now, definitely after this fight.
Yeah.
And even if you had it, even, or whoever was ahead, that shows, like, he showed a whole nother gear. Like you said, they told him he was down. He was like, how? So he thought he was doing his thing, but it didn't matter what was in the past. What matters is what he had to do, his task. And I don't think there's anything he can't do. And he showed that. So, like, he's got power. He's a great finisher. Some people, you can have power and you're not really a finisher, but he's a great finisher, great power. He switched stance. He had a chin. He can fight on the inside. He showed it all. And I don't see anybody that's going to really get the better of him over 12 rounds.
Yeah.
So that's a resounding yes. He's the number 1. Is that right?
Yep. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, let me go ahead and go around the panel. Jason, what do you think? Do you think that Bud Crawford is the number 1 welterweight in the division?
Due to unfortunate events which we've seen over the last 2 years, one of them being mention of the pandemic. We had a year break from boxing and all sports for the most part. And the tragic accident of someone making their Lamborghini do cartwheels, as well as tearing their retina. I would definitely have to give Crawford the edge. He's showing the activity. He's showing. I mean, what more do you need to see out of this guy at this point? To me, he is the shot caller in that division and has shown and proven why he shouldn't be taken lightly. I mean, I'm definitely a Spence guy. I am, but I mean, I can't deny the facts, and the facts are Crawford has fought who they put in front of him, which they didn't do a good job.
Yeah.
And thank God we'll get into the extras with that. Done a great job of putting the right guys in front of him or promoting him the right way, but when they put guys in front of him, he executes better than his counterparts. His counterparts, they fight the same guys. He goes in there and he completely damages these guys. He beats these guys down. Like it's not equal. So I can't see myself not saying Crawford's the man right now at 147. I mean, it is what it is. Hats off to Crawford. I'm not a Crawford guy. I'm not. I do think that he's missing an endorsement from Air Force One. He should be endorsing the Black Air Force One low. He just has that Black Air Force One energy. And at this point, man, I'm just, sky's the limit. Sky's the limit.
Yeah.
Man.
But just to follow up with what you just said, since Bud Crawford has moved to welterweight, he is now 6-0 in the welterweight division with 6 knockouts. So, like you said, you put them in front of him at this point, he's beaten them, and not only has he beat him, he stopped them. So it's a huge statement, especially stopping Shawn Porter. Shawn Porter has never been stopped.
Never.
And Bud Crawford stopped him. So, again, that's a big feather in his cap.
Huge.
Alex, what about you? Is Bud Crawford now the number 1 welterweight in the division?
Well, you could look at it 2 ways. I feel like if you look at him skill-wise right now, he is the number 1 guy at welterweight, but I feel like Spence still is the number 1 welterweight on paper based on the opponents that he's fought and him unifying. I do give credit to Crawford for beating Porter, which is a good guy to have in his resume. But, I mean, I know that he fought 6 guys and he knocked them all out. But if we get into details on those guys, I mean, Kell Brook went to 154, fought 3 fights at 54 against nobodies, and then came down. So, if you go into detail on those opponents, I can't give him too much credit on those guys. But with Shawn Porter, I do, and just see him skill-wise. And like he said, with the accident happening and with the eye accident, I just feel like Spence is just going to have a hard time dealing with Crawford. I feel like skill-wise, he's a number 1 guy. And because he wasn't promoted correctly, when it comes into paper, he's still the number 2 guy, unless he fights Ugas and beats him, or even fights another top welterweight, which I think there's 3 left. But
there's a few out there,
yeah. But I do feel like skill-wise, number 1 guy on paper. Errol Spence still holds the cards because of what he has. But that's my
fair.
opinion.
Yeah, that's a fair assessment. I can't knock you for that. Adonis, what about you? What do you think? Is Bud Crawford the number 1 welterweight in the division after stopping Shawn Porter?
Yeah, I think you got to do a whole lot of, not stretching, but it's kind of hard right now because we know boxing, it might be one of the most what have you done for me lately sports there is. And unfortunately, Errol Spence, I believe it's been, December 8th, a year now? Little over a year now since he's fought.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, so just looking at that, and when their resumes aren't vastly different, before the Shawn Porter fight, you would have said, okay, like Errol Spence on paper, no doubt has the better resume. But stopping Shawn Porter, that's such a big feather in your cap that at this point, I don't think he's leagues ahead of Errol Spence at all. But right now, in this moment today, December 8th, 2021, Terence Crawford is the best welterweight in the world, yes.
If I can,
another fair assessment.
If I can't add to, if it would be no question for me, especially with me being a Spence guy in this division, and that's the guy that that's my workhorse. That's the guy that I lean towards and want to see, get the big fights and propel his career to, because I think the sky's the limit for him too. But if the retina incident and he would have actually got in there and really did the work on Manny Pacquiao and really showed the world what he can do against Manny Pacquiao, I think we would be having a totally different conversation. Unfortunately, the retina incident happened, but it's crazy. Like you say, the what have you done for me now? You know, what have you done for me lately attitude with boxing is, I mean, I'm victim of it. We're all victim of it. And we just seen Crawford stop one of our favorite guys in the welterweight division. You know, everybody on this panel, I'm sure, is a huge Shawn Porter fan and has nothing but respect for Shawn Porter, who has an illustrious career. And for him to be able to stop him and just have his way in that 10th round is just like, you know, what can you say? It's what have you done for me lately? And I just wish, this conversation would go totally different if he would have been ready for that Pacquiao fight. If Ugas wouldn't have been able to step in and do what he did, which, you know, props to him. If we would have got a chance to see Earl go to the body on Manny and have his way and do what I think he could have done to Manny Pacquiao, which is speculation at this point, but man, we will be having a totally different conversation.
I agree. I agree. The comment, if he didn't have the eye issue and did face Pacquiao, this conversation would be different. But my stance will be the same. Just, you know, for the record, my stance would be the same. But like you said, Alex, like on paper, Spence is still the guy. His resume it hits a little harder than Bud's. But like I said, I don't say always, but I prefer the eye test because on paper, it's not just what you're capable of. Opportunity plays a major part because just like if Spence had got that Pacquiao fight, this conversation would be different. If Bud had that Pacquiao fight, I think it would be even more different, you know, and that was a fight that could have happened, I don't know, 4 years ago, something like that.
And like 3 years ago.
Maybe Bud's welterweight resume would look totally different if that had happened.
Yeah, but I don't think it wouldn't have made too much of a difference because, like y'all were mentioning, right? Crawford showed that he can muscle around Shawn Porter, a guy that's very physical and very rough. So the advantage that I gave Earl before the accident was his physical strength, being the bigger guy. But now Crawford has shown that he's grown into that 147 frame, and he's just as strong as any other welterweight. So I think whether Spence would have beat Pacquiao and Crawford would have beat Porter the way he did, it would have just showed you that Spence can't muscle him around and bully him around like that. Yeah. He's gonna have to try to outbox him. But when you try to when you try to play the boxing in with Crawford, you get picked apart. You know, it's just in a whole other level. But
best chance is maybe to make him force some mistakes or something. I don't know what you're gonna do.
The best chance was to fight him a long time ago. His best chance was to fight him a long time ago. As soon as he fought Jeff Horn, he should have just fought him. And now it's now it's too late.
Been any better for anybody else? Maybe for Bud, but you know, he's been the guy for me. But it's, you know, like I said, opportunity matters. You know, he hasn't. You know, part of he needs some accountability for how you know his opponents, because he did re-sign with Top Rank after I thought he should have left. You know, when the last time he signed, but now hopefully that's happening, and you know his horizons have been broadened.
Now I think he's going to clean it out. I believe that he's going to clean out the 147 division.
Yeah, hopefully he faces the right guys.
Well, we'll see. Let me go ahead and throw my 2 cents in there real quick. I would say that, I think Bud Crawford is number 1 in the welterweight division, but I think he's tied for first with Errol Spence Jr. You know, and the reason why I'm going to say that is just because I want there to be a tiebreaker. I think all of us do. The great, a great sign of, optimism for all of us is that Errol Spence was at the fight, so he was in attendance. And usually when you see fighters at other fighters' bout,
Mm-hmm.
they're studying them and they're getting ready to face them. So hopefully that's what happens next. Errol Spence was at the fight, and he left right after he reacted to Kenny Porter throwing in the towel in the 10th round, which brings me to the next question. We know what Errol Spence's reaction was after Kenny Porter threw in the towel. Breezy, what about you? What did you think? What was your initial reaction when Kenny Porter threw in that towel?
That's a good question, because my initial reaction is different from how I feel right now. Obviously, he went down twice in the 10th, and then his father, stopped it. But I think just me and everybody else watching it was like, well, just like that, you kind of felt like Porter had, he had a little bit more in him. He could have, he deserved a little bit more of a chance to try to turn around the situation. But right now, considering a few things, even if you had him ahead in the fight after those 2 knockdowns, he's not winning a decision. Like, not after those 2 knockdowns. So either he knocks Bud out or he loses. So basically every punch he took after that point would have been unnecessary punishment. And it's his father who stopped the fight. And so he's not just looking at it as, can he have a chance to win or not? He's looking at it as, this is concerning the safety and health of my son. So he stopped it basically as a trainer and as a father. So right now, I can't really give him too much about stopping it at that point. We wanted to see more. We know Porter would have been willing, but personally, I feel like it was inevitable. I don't think he would have seen the final bell.
Okay, Alex, what about you? What did you think about Kenny Porter's stoppage? What were your thoughts as soon as you saw him step on the apron and stop the fight?
Well, at first, I guess because I was keeping up with, their backstory, I kind of felt that he didn't do it because of his son. I feel like he just did it trying to steal a little bit of that victory from him, because they had a little beef going on. Because to me, we all been watching boxing for a long time, and we see a lot of guys that get floored. They go to the floor once, twice, 3 times. They look hurt. They let them continue, and either they end up winning or they finish the fight. And to me, Porter he looked like he could have still gone. But I just feel like Kenny did it to try to steal that little moment. Like, you didn't really stop my son. You just won because I decided to stop it.
Yeah,
that's just how I felt.
That's possible.
That's just how I felt, because it's the way he was talking about his son afterwards as well, and then doing other interviews saying different things after the fight. It just didn't make any sense to me. So I just feel that you should just let Shawn Porter go, man. I know that he wanted to, but who knows, right? The reason was, whether it was because of his son getting hurt, because we all do know that Crawford is a good finisher, and he could have hurt him. Or maybe because he just wanted to be like, well, I stopped the fight. You didn't stop my son, So who knows? But I still wanted it to continue because it was an amazing fight. Had to be one of the best fights of this year for sure.
Yeah, it could be for sure.
Yeah, at the end of the day, no matter what your stance is, the stoppage always stops us from seeing more action, and it was a great action fight. Adonis, what were your initial thoughts when Kenny Porter stepped up and stopped the fight?
Honestly, it wasn't till I guess I went online right after the fight and saw everybody's reactions to it that I realized that it might have been kind of a curious stoppage. After Shawn Porter went down that second time, knowing the kind of finisher Bud is, I was looking at the clock. I think there was 2 minutes left, or just under 2 minutes left in the round. The second time Shawn went down, and I was like, yeah, he ain't making it out of this round. And so when Kenny got up there, I was thinking that before Kenny got on the apron. So when Kenny got on the apron, I wasn't too surprised. Actually, in hindsight, I can now see more why some people might have wanted the fight to go on. But in the moment, I didn't see anything that really threw me off,
I hear you. Um, Jason, last but not least, tell us how you feel.
I just got a whole bad taste in my mouth when I say the words Kenny and Porter in the same sentence. And of course, we do have the opportunity of speaking in hindsight, right? We all know what
Right.
happened, and we all know what the later news is, especially with us filming this, so which seems like eons after the fight, which is really only a week or two after the fight. But with all the news coming out, I just feel like it was just uncalled for. And I think that now that we knew that he was gonna say goodbye, why not let him go out on this shield? This is a two-time champion. This guy is not. You had it's championship rounds. Yes, I do agree with Adonis. Do I think he would have made it out of the 10th? No, I really don't. And that's in all honesty. But with the energy, if I had to put it on like a scale with saying the gas tank, because we like to use that analogy a lot as far as how much gas he had in the tank, I think at least he had a little over a quarter tank in the gas, like the energy, the frustration that he was showing. Usually when guys are out of it, they don't have enough energy to show that level of frustration that Shawn Porter was showing at the time of the fight. You could tell he was upset with himself. When you're like in that position where you're getting stopped, you don't have time to think about or criticize yourself. You're usually just trying to get your bearings and figure out where you are in the ring or, wince that pain. But he showed that he was frustrated with himself and had plenty to go to, do I think the fight would have ended any differently besides a unanimous decision for Crawford? Probably not. Would it have looked, the optics on it look 10 times better if he would have been able to finish out the 10th, 11th, and 12th? Absolutely. And that's where I'm at with it. That's why the Kenny Porter thing, the stoppage, has a bad taste in my mouth, because with you guys being boxer and manager as well as father and son, leading up to that fight, you had to have some inkling or some knowledge of what was going to happen if, maybe it was a spur of the moment decision. Maybe. But if not, you have to let that champion go out on this shield in that moment, in the biggest fight of his career, arguably. That's the biggest fight, arguably, of Shawn Porter's career. You have to let him go out on this shield on that. It's the last hurrah. Why not? So with me, overall, I can't say that I agree or liked anything that Kenny Porter, anything to do with Kenny Porter, the way the coaching, the instruction, the preparation, the stoppage, the post interview. I can't, bro. I can't with Kenny Porter. I can't. Just horrible. Just horrible job all the way around.
I want to add something though, also, because you mentioned how after the second knockdown, Porter showed like the frustration. Maybe that also, led to the stoppage, to Kenny Porter stopping the fight, because when he looks in Shawn Porter's eyes, he can see something that we don't see. He knows him better than anybody, and also maybe that visibly, like, demonstrating that frustration maybe was an unofficial concession. You know what I mean? Because if you're still focused, even if something goes wrong for you, you still got a task to do. At that point, I think he just didn't know what to do. And so he was but that's what led to him just like beating the floor and everything. He's like, I'm trying my best.
And it's just,
I got countered. I'm getting hit clean now, and I just think he didn't know what to do. He just was upset. He knew at that point that he basically wasn't winning. Like, a victory wasn't coming his way.
If you will, I totally agree with everything you're saying. And like I said, how certain things would make all of these boxing conversations change immensely, just like we just discussed with Earl Spence and the retina and the car flip. Not getting a fight with Pacquiao, we would have had a much different conversation if he would have stopped or, beat Pacquiao. Same difference here. If we had not heard news of retirement, then yes, I would be a lot more accepting of, okay, maybe he saw something in his fighter, not his son, in his fighter, that is like, why let him go on and continue to take the punishment when I don't think that, he saw something, and I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. But if there's any, with that news of the retirement, if there was any discussion or anything in his brain, knowing that his son could possibly hang up the gloves after this, I totally disagree. I just don't think that was the moment for someone of Shawn Porter's caliber, that championship pedigree. He should not have. It shouldn't have ended.
Yeah, I agree with that 100% too. Like I didn't like the ending, but I understand the decision in hindsight.
Yeah.
See, right now, Breezy is like Thanos, and he's saying that Bud isn't inevitable. That's basically what he's doing. Me, personally, my initial reaction, I thought Kenny Porter stopped it early. I thought that Shawn wasn't too terribly hurt. I thought that both of the knockdowns, Terence Crawford basically caught him with a great shot. The first knockdown, he caught him with a great uppercut as Shawn was taking a big step forward and hit the deck. The second knockdown, it looked like Porter just got caught in a crouch, in a position where he really couldn't get out of. He got caught with a nasty straight over the top. And then he got caught with a few more punches as he was trying to maneuver through the crouch, and he was just in a bad position and he went down. And I think that's where the frustration really came from when it came to Shawn Porter's reaction, pounding the canvas and everything. Could that pounding the canvas have demonstrated to Kenny Porter, his father and trainer, that Shawn had lost his composure and wasn't going to do well if he continued? Maybe. And just like you guys have said, nobody knows Shawn better than his father. So, my initial reaction was that, I thought it was a little bit early, but I'm pretty much on the fence about it. Because at the end of the day, that is his son, and if he thought his son was in trouble, that is his job to save him.
Yeah.
But no matter what I thought about the stoppage, I really didn't like Kenny Porter's comments in the post-fight interview or the press conference. I just thought he didn't need to do that to Shawn at all. He could have just been a little more vague and just said that, I stopped the fight just because I didn't like the way it was going. He didn't have to get into specifics. But that's neither here nor there. Let's go ahead and move forward. As we all know, Shawn Porter announced his retirement in the post-fight press conference. Basically said that this was going to be his last fight. He's fought everybody that is out there to fight in the welterweight division. He's a two-time champion, and this is a good time for him to hang it up at age 34. With that, what type of legacy for you guys does Shawn Porter leave, and what are some of your favorite moments from Shawn Porter's career? Also, about the retirement, when he announced it, he also said that Kenny Porter really had no idea that that was something that was on Shawn's mind, that this may be his last fight. So there is also that for Kenny's decision to stop the fight, that he really had no idea to, that Shawn was going to retire. So the question is, what do you guys think about Shawn Porter's retirement, and what kind of legacy does he leave behind? And what are some of your favorite Shawn Porter moments? And because I know you're a big Shawn Porter fan, Jason, I'll go ahead and turn it over to you first.
I think being an awesome representative out of the state of Ohio, I think he leaves an amazing legacy, two-time champion. And for me, it's sort of like a tie. I'm not going to do that because I don't want to hog up all the highlights, but I'll just leave one. Stopping Berto it's a big one for me. That was like one of the big ones for me, because I honestly had Berto in that fight. When they fought, I had Berto. I really did. I thought Berto was up and coming. I thought Berto was the new, I thought he was going to step up and, really cause some havoc in the welterweight division. But I mean, hindsight is 2020. Porter did an amazing job, and of course, against a lot of other great welterweights. But yeah, in that fight, that was the one for me, like the Birdo fight. I think Shawn Porter is awesome. I don't think that he has anything to. He doesn't have any reason to feel like he left anything on the table. I think, and while he was fighting, I think he gave us his all every time, and we saw it with his scrappy brawler, rough, like one of the toughest welterweights we've seen in the division. Like he was that guy, scrappy, ready to go, just like not a finesse guy whatsoever. Just blue collar welterweight, just a good fighter, man, overall. And I tip my cap to him and, wish him nothing but the best, man. He had a great career. Great career.
Adonis, what about you? What do you think about Shawn Porter's retirement? What kind of legacy does he leave behind? And what are some of your favorite Shawn Porter moments?
Honestly, the retirement, I'm not in the moment. I was surprised about it. Now, in hindsight, realistically, I mean, he could go and get more big fights, but there's some young guys coming up in the welterweight division right now, and he's the kind of guy that they're gonna make him he's gonna make them fight him. And I think him looking at the landscape of the division, going, I have nothing left to give. I think it was probably the right time. If it was a little bit too soon, it's always better to be a little bit too soon than a little bit too late, especially in the sport of boxing.
Absolutely.
What I'm about to say, it's going to sound like kind of a slight, but I don't mean it to be. Shawn Porter is about, you guys know that saying, always the bridesmaid, never the bride. He's about as close to the bride as you could ever get without not quite getting there. All throughout his career, he's been that number 2 guy, number 3 guy. He was a champion at a certain point, but being like the star welterweight of the division, it just never really happened for him. I think the fight that I'm always going to remember is that fight against Errol Spence, and that kind of encapsulates like his entire career in that one fight. Just so close to getting it done, and then like putting on an amazing fight, really a classic from the welterweight division, and then gets knocked down, and he gets back up and puts on a great fight from that point forward. And the fight itself was so good because it shows you he's right up there at that championship level. And if it was just one punch here, one punch there, a slip here, a slip there, he could have been champion that night. And I think that's what Shawn Porter is going to be remembered for, fighting all the great guys and putting on amazing fights each time and being just as close to being the number 1 guy. And hey, there's no shame in that. And honestly, a lot of guys don't have the cojones to get in there with that many championship level fighters and put on those close of fights.
Agreed.
I don't know about you guys, but Adonis definitely stole my thunder. So I'll keep it moving along the panel. Zuniga, what did you think about Shawn Porter's retirement, and what kind of legacy does he leave behind, and what are some of your favorite Shawn Porter moments?
I feel that he's gonna be remembered as one of the top welterweights because I mean there's a very few fighters like I was saying that they're willing to fight the number 1 guys. Usually they take forever just to fight 1 or maybe 2, but this guy fought everyone and became champion not only 1 time but twice in one of the hardest weight classes, And I just feel that he's just gonna be remembered as the guy that was willing to fight anybody, no matter who it was. And his best performance that I feel that he had was when he fought Errol Spence, of course, because I felt that every single Shawn Porter fight, different opponents, he brought different things to the table. I know a lot of people think, oh, he's just aggressive. It comes in forward with his head, this and that. But he does different things. If you really look at it, he can box too. And I feel in that Spence fight, it was just beautiful because Spence didn't even know what to do with him. Spence thought that Shawn was going to brawl. Shawn was boxing. Shawn was counterpunching him. So he had Errol Spence confused the whole time. He didn't know what Porter was going to do. So I feel like that was his best performance. Even though he lost, I feel that was his best performance. I mean, I feel the only reason Spence won was just because of the knockdown. Because if not, I probably would have gave it to Shawn. by at least 2 or 1 round. But yeah, he's gonna leave a good legacy as one of the best guys out there, one of the best champions that wasn't scared to fight anybody. So that's just my thoughts on him. And then the retirement, I feel like, you know, I'm okay with it. I mean, he fought every single guy, and not everybody can say that I fought every single guy and became world champion twice. You know?
Yeah.
So
yeah,
that's just
that's
my
true.
thoughts on that.
That's true, and that's a great legacy to have. Breezy, last but not least, what do you think about Shawn Porter's retirement? What are some of your favorite Shawn Porter moments, and what kind of legacy does he leave behind?
Well, yeah, the retirement, it mildly surprised me because I'm not going to tell you I knew he was going to retire, but I did before the fight, the Crawford fight, ask myself, like, what's next for him, you know, win, lose, or draw. Like, he's done basically everything there is to do in that division. He's not a tall guy, you know. I wouldn't want to see him move up and you know, be taking a whole lot of punishment. And so, like, I'm happy for him. You know, he's got a bright, long future in commentating and doing that and getting behind the mic now. You know, he's just went from inside the ring to next to the ring. And I'm not mad at that because I like him as a commentator also, you know.
Yeah, very good commentator.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, and everybody's like they talk about the Spence fight because it was just so good. It was a classic, you know. It's easy to reference that, and that's one of my favorite Shawn Porter moments because you saw in a single moment you saw who he is after that knockdown, and you can see the way he fell, you know, the way he got dropped. He was hurt, you know, for a moment, but he got right up. And before the ref's trying to check him and do his thing, he's over there yelling at Spence, "Let's go!" You know what I'm saying? Let's go.
Yeah.
I'm here in this moment. I'm ready. Whatever you got, I'm ready for it. And that's basically who Shawn Porter is. Like, if I could describe him in one word, it'll be dog, or 2 words, dog mentality. You know, that's him. He's a throwback fighter. He's all that. He's tough. He's smart. But one thing that I don't think we talk about enough when it comes to Shawn Porter is his jab. He's got an excellent jab. It's fast, it's stiff. He can throw it at different angles. And it might be the best jab that I've seen on somebody with that style, that likes to fight in that style. So I wanted to give him that, you know. And as far as his legacy, it's like I said, he's known for facing everybody. He took on all challengers, and the only ones that actually got the W against him, for one, they were all undefeated when he faced them, and they were all basically on top of the welterweight division in that moment. So he only lost to the best and took them all right to the not so much with Crawford and a little bit with Brooke, but Thurman was hot, Spence was hot. Some people still say Spence is on top of the division, and he, without that one punch that dropped him, that could have lost the fight for him. That one punch could have changed that whole outcome of that fight, and he earned every bit of it. And Spence is a dog himself, you know, and he did that. Yeah. But I'm just throw out a few names that he faced: Thurman, Spence, Crawford, Berto, Alexander, Malignaggi, Ugas, like the list goes on. He faced such quality opposition. You know, I don't think anybody in the sport today has faced that level of opposition right now. Yeah, so that's his legacy in my eyes.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, as you can see, I have a pretty good panel for this show tonight because everybody has pretty much stolen all of my thunder to. You guys are very difficult to follow. You took a lot of the things I was going to say. For starters, the legacy that Shawn Porter leaves behind is that he's a fighter that all the fans love. Even if he's fighting your favorite fighter, that's the fight that you want. If you're a Bud Crawford fan, you want Bud to fight Shawn Porter because you know it's going to be a great fight. If you're an Errol Spence fan, you want Errol to fight Shawn Porter because you know it's going to be a great fight. If you're a fan of whoever, you would love for them to fight Shawn Porter because you know Shawn Porter brings 110% every time he comes into the ring, and he's just a tornado. I think he's represented himself very well in the ring and outside of the ring his whole career. It's a young age to retire at 34. Not so young in the sport of boxing, but just young overall. When I first heard him announce his retirement, truthfully, it saddened me a little bit. But at the same time, I think it's good for him because he still does have a lot to give to the sport of boxing through his commentating, also through his podcast. And, he'll be around the sport of boxing, even though he's no longer a participant. And that's always, that's going to be a great thing. These guys stole my thunder because I was going to say my favorite moment from Shawn Porter is when he got dropped by Errol Spence. And I thought that his fight against Errol Spence is probably one of the best performances he's had in his career, even though he came out short. And he came out just short. I think we should definitely mention that. It was a split decision loss, not a unanimous decision loss, even though he got dropped in the 11th round. Yeah. Majority? No, it was split.
It was split.
Oh, yeah, it was split.
Right.
It was split.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we just had one of the rare moments where I was able to correct Adonis.
Damn.
So, yeah.
I'm on game these days, cuz. Dang.
I'm gonna have to write that down somewhere so that it happened.
I was waiting on you to give your synopsis, and I had this question written down before we did this, and it's crazy when you asked me the question, I still didn't state this, and I wrote it down right here, and I said, is he really done though, or is he really just done with Kenny?
Well, you know what?
Wrote that down and didn't say it when you asked.
Let me go ahead and finish, and I'll let you visit that. So when he got dropped by Spence, I believe it was the 11th round.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think, Adonis? Am I right?
Yes, in the Spence.
Okay, all right. So 11th round, he was dropped by Errol Spence, and my favorite moment is when he got up while the ref was dusting his gloves off, and it was a tremendous shot that Spence landed on Porter to drop him. While the referee was dusting his gloves off, he looks at Errol across the ring with fire in his eyes and shouts, "Let's go!" And that's the type of fighter that Shawn Porter is, or at this point, the type of fighter he was, and the type of fighter he always was. I first took notice of him when he knocked out Paulie Malignaggi, who was another great fighter and great commentator. He definitely got my attention when he got a unanimous decision over Adrian Broner. He beat Berto. He beat Ugas. He beat Danny Garcia. And he beat Granados out of Chicago. He beat a lot of people. He lost to a few, but he fought everybody, and he fought the best. And the people that he lost to, he brought them one of the best challenges of their career. So I think he leaves behind one hell of a legacy, something that's going to be hard to follow for a lot of, for up and coming prospects. That's the guy you want to be. You want to be Shawn Porter because fans love him no matter what, win or lose. I think he has a great chance of being in the Hall of Fame one day. It's obviously not, like a first ballot situation for a lot of, in a lot of people's opinion. But I would love to see him in the Hall of Fame someday because I think he definitely deserves it. And at the end of the day, he leaves the sport as a two-time welterweight champion. When his father wanted him to go to college as opposed to boxing at all. So, kudos to Shawn. We wish you nothing but the best in retirement, and we got to thank you for all the great fights you've given us over the years. Jason, what were you going to say?
I'm just saying, I think that there's so many young up-and-comers, he could definitely get in there and see if those guys have what it takes to box at a championship level, being that he is he would be a great tester. He's been against the best. He knows what it's like. Like Adonis said, Couldn't word it better. You know, he's been that close to being the bride, the guy, the number one guy. So, you know, if he seeks new management, hopefully, I think that maybe he could give it a second try. So, you know, I don't know. You know how these things go. People say that they're not going to fight anymore.
happens.
The next thing you know,
Like Floyd,
Yeah.
retired like 100 times.
Yeah.
Like a lot of boxers, a lot of
Yeah.
yeah.
and if I had to pick a boxer that I wouldn't mind changing their mind, it would be this guy for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. If he woke up next year, same time, same channel, got tired of just commentating on fights and say, you know what? I could beat that guy. I would be right there saying, you know what, Shawn? You can't beat that guy. Just get rid of Kenny. That's all you got to do. Get rid of Kenny.
Well, you know, one thing I didn't say about Shawn that I meant to say about Shawn is that.
Oh, there he is.
Zuniga, was that you and Kenny?
Yeah.
Oh, that's what's up. Well, I'm gonna let you talk about that in a second. But one of the things I was gonna say that I should have said about Shawn when I was kind of, you know, recapping his career and his legacy is Shawn is one of the nicest guys to probably ever lace him up. You know, if you met Shawn and you know you didn't know he was a boxer, and then eventually he told you, "Yeah, I'm a professional boxer," you'd be like, "Stop playing with me, man. You don't box. You too nice of a guy to box." And you know, to what you know, to respond to what you said, Jason, about him leaving Kenny, you know, and getting a new trainer. I don't think Shawn would ever do that to his father. And you know, I know Clarissa Shields tweeted about it and left her sentiments about it. She said that maybe Shawn did retire because you know, he's at odds with his father and he just wouldn't want to train with anybody else besides his father out of loyalty. But you know, moving forward, Zuniga, that's a great picture. Tell us a little bit about Kenny Porter since you've met him before.
Well, before he
Let's see that picture again.
Before he fought Crawford, I mean, my opinion on him changed a little bit.
Well, tell us about your pre-fight opinion, because I don't want to sit here and, you know, dump on Kenny too much.
I thought he was cool because I mean, it was me and my wife. We had gone to the Spence fight. I think you were there, right, Bridget?
Yeah, I was there.
You at the Spence fight, walking. Next thing you know, I see this guy walking. I'm like, hey, that's Kenny Porter. And I was like, and then my wife's like, no, it's not. And I was like, yeah, look, he even has a WBC chain on him. And then she was like, Kenny. And he turns around and he was cool. He started talking to us, took pictures with us. And we thought it was funny because after he took pictures with us, talked to us, all these other people were looking at us like, why are they taking pictures with this guy? So now everybody wanted to take pictures with them. And he was just like, nah, I'm good. I'm cool. And he just walked away from So I thought that was cool because, I mean, I guess he was just like, y'all don't even know who I am. And now y'all want a picture from me, right? So he turned everybody down and walked away. But I thought he was cool, nice dude. But whenever I saw that all axes or whatever you want to call it, when he was just yelling at Porter, telling him, like, you do what I say, you're going to win, and this and that, I just thought that was it didn't sit well with me. And then after the fight, as well, it didn't.
That's what I was gonna say, and he brought it up, and I was just about to say, well, ask the whole panel. I know that I'm being very, very critical of Kenny Porter right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I'll ask the panel, and this is before the distasteful comments after the fight, which left. I'm gonna say how I felt. You guys can display how you felt about what he said in the interview after the fight. But how many of y'all watched that All Access and after watching it thought that you would want Kenny Porter as your manager? In all honesty, and not to say that Kenny Porter isn't a good manager or, you know, to discredit him that much, but just in all honesty, after watching that All Access with any manager that you could pick in the boxing realm right now who's doing great. There's a lot of great fighters, a lot of great managers behind those fighters. Which one of you would have said, you know what, give me that guy?
You know what? I'll go first because I don't want anybody to steal my thunder this time.
You deserve it.
Yeah, thank you, Breezy. I appreciate that, my brother. So here's what I would say. I would say that as hard as Kenny is on Shawn, that is his son. So he kind of, that's his son. And that's their relationship. It's an interesting dynamic, to say the least, but that's his son. And I'm not so sure that he trains other fighters like that. He may just train Shawn like that because that's his son. And, he knows him better than anybody else. And he knows what his abilities are. And he knows when he's not training up to his abilities. So, I'm kind of on the fence about that also. Would I want Kenny talking to me like that? Yes and no. Sometimes you do need a coach to be tough on you and let you know when you're not doing well and how you need to be better. And Kenny does that very well. Would I want my coach to say what Kenny said in the post-fight interview? No, I would have fired him immediately after the mics were cut off. I'd have said, this is our last fight, Kenny. You said your piece. And
Peace.
That's it. Yeah, peace. Exactly. So, Breezy, what about you?
Well, yeah, I did see something in that All Access before the fight. And like we talked about it briefly in our predictions episode, but like we said, we got flagged on that when it didn't get out there. But I mentioned how, watching the clips of him training Porter before the fight, he really went in on about not doing what you want to do what I want to do. And, it specifically what he was talking about, that could have been accurate. He could have been right about that. But the way he said it, I just felt like there was a whole lot of unnecessary ego in that moment. You know what I mean? Because you could say, no, you want to maybe clinch in this moment, but what's more effective for you could be to throw a jab or something. It could be anything. But he said, don't do what you want to do what I want to do to be successful. You won't succeed if you do what you want to do. I'm like, what he wanted to do got him this reputation. It got him all his wins. I'm not to take any credit from Kenny. I always liked Kenny. But, before that, I did mention, I'm like, that I didn't like that. Like, I felt like it was his ego talking, and I did defend him in hindsight after, stopping the fight. But I do also take issue with him for basically he saved Porter and then threw him under the bus. You know what I'm saying? It's like, no, this situation ain't on me, it's on him. I'm like, that's not what a coach does, or it's not what a father does. That's how I felt, because even if he wasn't training the same, you saw something, like he said, he saw something different in his eyes. What we know is that Porter gave everything he had. He did his best, and maybe he couldn't, he didn't have the same focus. Maybe he did, maybe he didn't. But as far as his effort and he did everything he could, he gave everything he had at that time to win the fight. And to be honest, we talked about the Spence fight. I think this actually was his best performance, but it's, it didn't turn out to be a victory, which is still saying a lot for Spence and for Bud. But like I said, I think he did everything right. But I have Bud the best. I know nobody's beating Bud, in my opinion, right now. So that's what happens.
Well, you brought up Bud, so let's go ahead and move forward. And the next and final question is, what's next for Bud Crawford? And Breezy, you're the president, so I got to turn it over to you first again.
Okay.
What's next for Bud? And you know what? I think this is going to be a unanimous decision through the panel, but I'm going to ask the question anyway. What is next for Bud Crawford?
What's next? I really don't know. He's a free agent right now. He's got some options, but we all know what we want next. You know, we can talk about that.
You know what, Breezy? Let me cut you off right there. Let me go ahead and fill the listeners in, unless they, they may not have heard it yet. But we talk about what's next for Crawford. Crawford did hint in the post-fight press conference that he will be leaving Top Rank, and he's going to be a free agent. So it seems as though he scored 2 knockouts that night, one on Shawn Porter and one on Bob Arum, who was sitting right next to him when he dropped that hint that he would probably be leaving Top Rank. So go ahead. I'm sorry to cut you off, but go ahead and pick up where you left off. What's next for Bud as a free agent?
Yeah. Obviously, I think Spence versus Bud is the best match to be made in boxing right now. That's what everybody wants to see. We've been talking about it since probably before Bud even arrived at welterweight. But both of them are still undefeated. They're on top. It's good timing even. But considering how Spence has the eye injury, he says they caught it early, so it didn't do nearly as much damage as it could have. I would like to see Spence maybe face Ugas next instead of Bud next. Just because, Ugas is a great fighter. Not to say that he's an easy win, but I think Spence will do that. And I think not only will it make it just a much bigger fight when he does face Bud, but it will also be for undisputed. Now, in the meantime, while Spence faces Ugas, I would like to see, and not because of Bob Arum or anything he said or did, but I think it would help the Spence fight be bigger if Bud faced Josh Taylor at 47. I think that's a good fight, but it's just going to it's very marketable, and it's going to make the Spence fight even bigger than it already is, than it has been for years. I think it would just have the most success after Spence face Ugas and Bud face Josh Taylor.
Well, Breezy, this is the hard-hitting truth, so I'm not going to lie to you. I don't think Bud is going to get that Josh Taylor fight after he leaves Top Rank, my brother. I think he can kiss that potential fight goodbye. But let's go on to the next Adonis. What about you? What do you think is next for Bud Crawford?
Yeah, well, what I think is next and what is actually going to happen, those might be 2 different things. Or what should be next, should I say. What should be next, we all know. It should be Errol Spence. But there is a ton of different, I think, confounding factors that make that fight probably not going to be next. In the meantime, man, there's 2 big young names, maybe not the biggest names, but 2 young guys with a lot of respect in the division, between Jaron Ennis and Virgil Ortiz Jr. I think, honestly, I think Ortiz would probably get it just because he seems to be like 1 or 2 steps ahead right now in his career as far as like where he is in the spot he's in. But if he could take out one of those young guys in the meantime, that's 1 more great name on your record. And let Errol Spence and Ugas, like Breezy was saying, figure that all out. Honestly, that would only raise Bud's name even more, especially, Virgil Ortiz Jr., that's a big guy. That's a big guy that can hit hard. And I don't think anybody would think that wouldn't be an amazing fight. I think it would be. In the meantime, Bud's got some options, The Josh Taylor fight, probably not going to happen. Although, to be honest with you, Josh Taylor, there's not a ton for him to do right now after his mandatory. There's guys at 135 that can move up and fight him. But realistically, if Bob Arum really wants to put him in a big spot, I don't think he would be, well, it's Bob Arum, so who knows. But I don't think it would be the worst option for him to go fight Bud Crawford, especially because you got that whole storyline, right? The old, undisputed super lightweight champion against the new undisputed super lightweight champion. It kind of just makes itself, to be honest with you. So Bud's got options right now. What should be next? Errol Spence. What's going to be next? We'll wait and see.
All right. Alex Zuniga, what about you? What do you think is next for Terence Crawford? What should he do next?
Oh, I feel the best thing for him to do next will be to fight Ugas, because Ugas just came from beating Pacquiao, and Pacquiao's a big draw. So a lot of people got to see who Ugas is, because I feel like if he fights Josh Taylor, even though that would be a good matchup, I feel like there's not a lot of people that know who Josh Taylor is, unless you're a hard boxing fan. But I feel like he should fight Ugas next. That way he has a better negotiating hand when it comes to the Errol Spence fight. And I feel that Errol Spence, coming off those injuries, he should fight a guy like Virtual Ortiz, here in Texas, in the Cowboy Stadium. And I feel that can help him, gain a little bit of fans back and want to see him back. And after that, a big mega fight happen. I do not want to see a Crawford fight Ennis right now. I'm not saying that Ennis will beat him, but I just feel that he could be that odd factor that could ruin a big mega fight against Errol Spence, So I just feel that he should just fight Ugas first and let Errol Spence fight Virtual Ortiz, and then they meet up for a big unification fight. And if Bud still wants to stay at 47, he could fight a guy like Ennis, or if not, he can just move up and just take everything away from Charlo or Castaño, whoever is the number one guy at that weight class. But that's just what I feel like he should do next.
That would be
I feel like you're saying that fight should happen in Texas specifically, so you should go to it. And I'm not mad at that whatsoever. Jason from Podcast Without Trying, what about you? What do you think Terence Crawford should do next?
Man, it's simple for me. I'm old school. I think that honestly, he should just go up the ranks. I think Ugas would be the next best thing to Errol Spence, and then as a grand finale, fight Errol Spence for the super fight. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. That's what we all want to see. Nobody wants to see nothing else. we can act as we could talk about these other welterweights and these up and come, but we know what we want to see. Just as bad as we wanted to see Wilder and Joshua.
Joshua.
Wilder and Joshua so bad, and what happened? It was ruined. Just like my friend Alex said, we don't want to see that get ruined. It's there, it's built up, it's there. So if he doesn't fight Spence next, I think he should fight Ugas. I really do. And then just one big fight for all the marbles. And then any other guy that he fights in the welterweight division could just be defenses and for just title defenses to add to his legacy. I'm old school. I think he should just try to get all the Infinity Stones, make himself the man, and clean out the division. And then if he want, like Alex just said, if he wants to defend the titles or move up, or the world is his oyster, or go back down and beat some 140, like beat Taylor up and whoever else comes out of 140 and acts like they want that smoke. He could go down or come up, or they come up and just beat up on 140s too, and just continue to just cause havoc from 140 to 147. Or he could possibly move up, which I would think is I don't know. I don't know how to feel about him.
He's got enough skill to move up for sure. He's got enough skill,
but he has so much work to do now in this division that I think it's just too soon for me to even talk about him moving up. Yeah. He has so much to do right now. So it's just like, whatever. We could talk about that. I don't think that accomplishing defeating Spence is that easy for us to start looking past Spence. We ain't talking about some fresh up and comer. This is a champion. This guy is tough. He's one of the bigger guys in the division. He's definitely got the resume. I think it's disrespectful, honestly, to talk about him doing anything else before he gets past Errol Spence. Now, maybe the Ugas thing, I could see him, looking past Ugas and us constantly talking about, okay, fight Ugas and get the belt. Whatever way they want to do it, if Spence fights Ugas and he fights one of them tune-up guys, or Earl Spence fights one of the up-and-coming guys and he fights Ugas, so that we get to see Crawford, Spence, all the marbles, I'm good. That's all I want. That's what's next. If you ask me, that's what's next. Hopefully, he gets the right promotion. Hopefully, and we get to see it. Because, like I said, we're right there on the cusp where we was in the heavyweight division. We all knew what we wanted to see. Wilder, Joshua. Now, who knows when we'll get to see that? We'll never get to see that.
We may never.
Years out.
Yeah.
Well, now that Terence Crawford is a free agent, this is what I would like to see him do. I would like to see him go around to different promotional companies and just say, if you can't guarantee me the Errol Spence fight, I'm not signing with you. Period. If I can't get that fight next or right afterwards, I'm not signing with you. If I can't get that guarantee, I'm not signing with you. And if you can't give me Spence right now, I want Ugas for a unification fight. These are the fights that Terence Crawford deserves. I agree with Adonis that, at this stage of Errol Spence's career, being inactive for a year, if not almost a year, it may not serve him well to jump right into a fight with Terence Crawford, and maybe he needs a tune-up fight. So if that's the case, I would like to see Terence Crawford fight Ugas, and I would love to see Errol Spence fight Keith Thurman. Keith Thurman has been barking for a big fight for a while now. Errol Spence has always wanted to fight him. I'd love to see that take place. If it's almost Christmas. So if we could get something for Christmas for boxing, that would probably be my wish for the welterweight division. If we can't get Crawford versus Spence right away, I'd like to see Crawford versus Ugas. If Crawford could defeat Ugas, he would gain a ton of fans, just like Alex was saying. You got a man who just beat Manny Pacquiao and became champion. It would be a huge fight. It would do good pay-per-view numbers. And if Crawford was victorious, he's going to gain a ton of Filipino fans just because he's the man that avenged Pacquiao's loss. And then if Spence is not ready to fight Crawford, I'd love to see him fight Keith Thurman. It's been one of the guys that he's wanted to fight who he hasn't been able to get in the ring with. And it would be unfinished business for him. And it would be a chance for us to see what Keith Thurman still has in the tank. So that's what I would like to see. But again, I think that the key is for Terence to tell promotional companies right up front, if you can't guarantee me a fight with Spence, I'll just remain a free agent and fight on a one-fight basis with whatever network or whatever promotional company I have to do it with.
Matchroom.
I think that's what he should do. Just not even sign with anybody. Just want to fight.
I think Matchroom can make it happen.
Matchroom is great. They've been putting together great fights and great cards. So Matchroom, Premier Boxing Champions. There's a ton of small promotional companies under Premier Boxing Champions, like TGB or Mayweather Promotions, or even I want to say Manny Pacquiao Promotions is under PBC now. So there's a lot of options under PBC, and that's what Terence has. He has a lot of options, rightfully so. He's the man right now. If he's not the man in the welterweight division, he's definitely the man in the welterweight division right now. I think we've said it all, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go ahead and start wrapping up this show. I'll go around the board.
Just to recap.
Oh, okay.
We got the president here of the Bud Crawford. In what order would you like to see the next fights for your president? I mean, your fearless leader.
Well,
Go down,
fearless leader. Well, I just is to be honest, as long as the Spence
specific, not as long as it's Spence. Like, how would you like to jump straight to Spence, or is there a particular order? Because we all know you on this platform as being the number one Crawford guy. Crawford, what's your saying?
Bud over everybody.
Bud over everybody.
Bud over everybody.
So how would you like to see exactly from the next fight on forward?
Okay, so like I don't want Spence next. And that's not for Bud, that's for Spence, because let's say if they fight next and then Bud wins, it's going to be tarnished. They're like, he wasn't the same. He wasn't the same. So even though that's a mouth-watering fight at any time, yeah, or he was rusty.
Rusty, yes.
But even though that's still a mouth-watering fight at any time, give him a chance to get back. I know Spence himself is saying, I don't need a tune-up, but it'll be better this way, I believe. You know what I'm saying? There's no excuses. Everything will be the way it should be, you know. But so in the meantime, so I think Spence should get a tune-up, and not a light tune-up, not just some guy, but like HB said, Thurman's a good name. He's risky. He could be a spoiler, but it's a really good fight. If he get past that guy, you know he's 100% when he faced Bud. You know what I mean? Thurman's good enough to do that. So next, like you guys said, I would like to either Josh Taylor or Ugas, because there's a lot to gain. Either of those fights will make the Spence fight even bigger. So
all right,
Taylor or Ugas, then Spence. All in 22. All in 22.
I like
I'm
it.
happy.
Yeah, you know what, Breezy? I'm not gonna lie, man. When you first said that Spence should fight Ugas and Crawford should fight Josh Taylor, I was, because that was your first take. I was like, man, Breezy, what? Are you depressed? I would have definitely thought that you would have wanted Bud to get that unification with Ugas, because then, you know, if Spence were to fight Ugas and come out victorious, he'd have 3 belts to Crawford's 1, and you know,
right.
That kind of,
that's true.
That's
true. And
I agree, though. I agree with Breezy. I'm definitely liking that layout. The way that Breezy laid it out, I like it that way.
Which way?
It shows if Spence fights Ugas, then we all as fight fans and people that's doing these platforms could say there's no excuse. If Crawford stops Spence or beats Spence, then we could all say undoubtedly in our head, there's no, he's the guy. Crawford's that guy. You know what I mean? And
well, you know what? When you put it that way, Jason, I can see the method to the madness from El Presidente. You know?
Yeah, I like it. I like it.
Yeah. It's nice. It's nice if he has a belt. It gives him a little leverage for the Spence fight. But I think it's going to happen either way. So, but like on paper, I think there's more to gain from beating Josh Taylor.
Yeah,
he's undefeated, undisputed. You know, that's you talking big time there. You know, and he's undisputed in a good division too. It's not just some weak division. It's a good. I'm not. That's not shade on anybody. I'm not throwing no shade tonight. You know, but
I feel you.
40 is a great division, and he's the undisputed king. That's just a great matchup. You know, on paper and actually, if you look at the eye test, like Taylor's not, you know, he's not somebody you want to look past really. But I think, you know, we talk.
Taylor's a great fighter, and he also makes great adjustments, similar to the way Crawford does. So I hear you there. And you know, one thing that I think people would say if Crawford were to fight Taylor instead of another welterweight is that, you know, he's fighting somebody that's in a lower division. And while that's true, when you say that, it's not all the way true, because, you know, when you look at Josh Taylor when he's, you know, not making weight, he's a pretty big guy. And he does he makes
Mhm.
a concerted effort to get down to 140, and it's a transformation that takes place. So he could fill into welterweight immediately. He doesn't need to.
Yeah, yeah.
He really, I guess it would serve him well to have a tune-up fight before he faced somebody like Bud Crawford, but size-wise, he's big enough to fight at welterweight.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like
Yeah. Well, listen, I think we've discussed it all. Let's go ahead and wrap the show. I'm going to go around the panel, and we're going to go ahead and put our final 2 cents in. I'm going to start off with Jason. Jason, thank you for joining us tonight. Go ahead and first and foremost, go ahead and tell all the listeners about your platform, Podcast or Die Trying.
Well, my name is Jason Lawrence, and I have a platform called Podcast or Die Trying, where we try to cover all, trending topics and just basic new events. And we'd love for you to come over there. All you got to do is hit that search button on YouTube, type in Podcast or Die Trying, hit the subscribe, hit the bell, hit all, so you can get the notifications. We like to run live feeds so that we can hear from our audience, as well as get commentary live right on the spot when we're talking about these topics. And also, I am dropping a new series of food reviews every Friday, something that I've been wanting to do, and I just think it's awesome. I'm going to start with some of the foods that I was able to take in over a 14-day cruise, and we're going to move that right along to covering some of the greatest restaurants here in Chicago. So if you ever here, especially all my truck drivers out there, places for you to park, stop, and get a decent meal in you when you're tired of eating McDonald's and all that truck food trash. So, truck stop trash. So yeah, Podcast or Die Trying, tune in.
Well, are you saying that the truckers shouldn't be getting sushi from these rest stops? Is that what you're
Yeah,
saying?
you might not want sushi. I don't think it's a great career move at all.
All right. Well, hey, thank you for joining us tonight and producing this show. We
Thank
really
you for having me.
appreciate you. And, we would be more than willing to come onto your show as panelists from time to time. Just shout when you need us and we'll be there.
You're all welcome.
Adonis, final remarks.
Man, the last few weeks, I know we're a little bit late on this one, but the last few weeks in boxing, it's been showing why the sport's starting to see a little bit of a revival just amongst everybody. And coming up towards the end of the year, we still got a few good ones left. Honestly, from the strong start that we had in 2021, coming off the long layoff in 2020 in the pandemic, I'm excited to see what we got next year, man, because I don't think we're slowing down. I think we're only speeding up, and Undisputed is becoming more and more the thing these days. I think 2022, Errol Spence, Terence Crawford, Jordinas Ugas even. I think we're going to see more of that, especially in the welterweight division.
Yeah, and you know what? That's a great thing. That's what boxing needs. Boxing needs champions to fight champions, so that we do get more undisputed champions. It's a shame that we don't have as many as we should in the 4-belt era, but it looks like that is starting to change. Alex, thank you for joining the show. This is your first time. Alex Zuniga, amateur boxer from San Antonio, Texas. Final remarks from you.
No, just like y'all were saying, I feel like boxing is getting a bit of a boost now. There's a trend happening now when it comes to wanting to get all the belts, and that's what's going to make a lot of great fights, because now all these champions are going to want to face each other, because everybody's going to want to be considered undisputed. So I'm sure we're going to see more this year coming up. I mean, we still have the heavyweights. They might unify all the belts as well. And then we got Gastano and Charlo saying that they're going to rematch again.
Yes, sir.
And then it's just and also the lightweight division is probably going to have finally somebody crowned there.
That's exciting.
So I think it's an awesome trend. It's an awesome trend, that whole mentality. I'm not trying to bring up Floyd or nothing like that, but that mentality about losing your O and all that, it's slowly fading away. It doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
Like just like back then, you could take a loss, come back, and become a great champion. And I'm starting to fall in love with it even more. Seeing a lot of top elite fighters just go head to head. So those are my final thoughts.
Well, Zunica, thank you for joining the show tonight. Again, we appreciate it. And you mentioned Crawford fighting Ugas in Texas. You got Charlo versus Castano.
No, I said Spence and what's it called, Virgil Ortiz.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to misquote you. So you said that in Texas, but you got a great fight coming up in Texas. Charlo versus Castano, and that's in Houston, which is not too far from you. So go ahead and make a drive over. That'll be a great one.
Sucks I missed it. They had the first one here, and I can't believe I missed it. The tickets were so cheap. They were so cheap.
Well, you got time to make up for it. Breezy, my brother. I usually had you going first. Now I saved the best for last. Mr. President, final remarks, sir.
Well, I'm gonna just go for a general scope first. I said it before. There's more talent in boxing right now than there's ever been. Whether people know it or not, but I think right now people are more and more people are taking notice. Like I mean, we probably all heard somebody say, "Oh, I haven't followed boxing since the heavyweight division fell off, or since Tyson, or something like that." I'm hearing less and less nowadays, and all the talent is there. Tune in. I don't care what you're into. You won't be disappointed. And next, I want to give a shout out to Shawn Porter for bringing a good fight and an excellent legendary career. So shout out to him. And then finally, Bud Crawford. I'm just keep it short and sweet. I said it before. I'm gonna say this again. BOE. BOE. But over everybody.
I knew that was going to be your sign off. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we said it all. We spoke about the Crawford versus Porter fight. It was one hell of a fight. If you missed it, you shouldn't have. Thanks for bearing with us. Like I said, we had some technical difficulties that kept us from giving you guys content. We got to resolve now. So the next video you'll see from us, you'll hear our thoughts about CFS Lopez versus George Kambosos Jr. Until next time, protect yourself at all times and roll with the punches. My name is HB, alongside my brother Breezy. Adonis, thank you for joining us. Alex Zuniga, thank you for joining us. And Jason from Podcasting Showtime. Thank you once again. Till next time, guys. Breezy, we're having peace.
Peace. There it is.
There it is. Cut it.